Hello, I am Pastor Kelcey A. West of Nehemiah Ministries.
And I'm Pastor Kyle West of Outpour LV right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we are so excited to be here on YLC TV every Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dad, how you feeling today?
Listen, I am so excited to finally be able to release and share generational wisdom.
I believe wholeheartedly that God has something special that's going to take place here. Listen, one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that we are helping people see that generations can work together. So I, of course, am from the younger generation. My dad is, of course, from the older generation. And one of the things that we want to do is put an end to the stigma that says that older generations and younger generations in the church can't work together. I have my own ministry. My dad has his own ministry, but we are working together to save souls in the city of Las Vegas.
That's right. So listen, every Thursday we want you to get ready, because the same way we're encouraging people to pass down generational wealth, we're going to pass down and share generational wisdom. So we want you to look forward to our Bible studies, our worship services, and guess what? Sometimes we may just sit down and allow you to see how we sit and talk every day as father and son. So stay tuned, get ready, because now it's time for generational wisdom.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Pastor Kyle West, and you are now here with us on Generational Wisdom. Listen, I am so very excited today, because today we are going to be having an amazing discussion that I believe is going to be beneficial to fathers and sons everywhere. So listen, I don't know about you, but I need you to begin to like, share, tag, and invite as many people as possible, because today I have a special conversation planned with my father and I believe that we are going to be able to bring some insight into how we are doing things out here in Las Vegas, how we have been able to continue to grow our ministries in the midst of a pandemic, how we've been able to work together, and I'm super excited about it. So listen, I need you to like, share, tag, invite as many people as possible in today, because it's going to be fun. Dad, how you feeling?
Good afternoon. How are you doing? I'm feeling good. I am feeling good. I've been waiting a long time to have this conversation, because I believe this is something we've talked about for years, and to see it happen via a pandemic is unbelievable. But it's unbelievable, but it does not surprise me, because that's how God works.
That's right.
And so when he says all things, and I don't want to sound cliche to start off, but when he says all things work together, I'm so grateful. In 2020, all things were working together for our good.
That's right. That's right. And it's kind of funny how you just said 2020, because it is, in my opinion, the 15th month of 2020.
That's
so
right.
I'm excited about it, if we want to be honest.
Like
and so, today we're going to be basically talking about fatherhood, sonship, and being able to work together, because I believe that we are hitting a very crucial point of the pandemic where things are starting to kind of clear up. And so I believe right now more than ever, we need to really make sure that from fathers, sons, pastors, associates, pastor to pastor, if you're a father who's a pastor, you got sons who are pastors, having these conversations of how are we going to do this? How are we still going to work together? We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you guys do not know, I'm the pastor of Outpour LV here in Las Vegas. And my father, he's the founder and senior pastor of Nehemiah Ministries Christian Church here in Las Vegas. And we are working together. Literally, our schedules are as follows. Our Bible studies run either a day before or a day after each other. My father allows me to use his facility. My services are typically after his, and I preach for him when he calls me, and still handle our responsibilities in my ministry. If I needed him, of course, my dad would always be there for me. Whenever he needs something, I'm there. I actually start my day off serving at my father's ministry, so I handle all of his needs. There is nothing he can't ask me for that will not be done, and if it can't be done by me, I'm calling, building a relationship, something to make it happen, because I believe in honor. I've been taught honor because I saw my father honor well. He honored his pastor, and he even honors his actual father, who isn't even a pastor, very well. And so one of the things that I want to start this off with is with an encouragement to sons who may be pastors, or you may be an associate, or you may be a sound man or a musician. I want to encourage you to find yourself in a place where you do not stop honoring your father or honoring where you come from. If you have the ability to serve or sow or participate, I want you to continue to do that. And especially if you have a ministry, keep that ministry connected in some way to your father's house. Reason being is because right now in today's world, we are seeing such a lack of honor. And so I want to ask you today about this, Deb. How is what is taking place in today's culture like affecting you? Like, because you see the things that go on, the amount of dishonor that takes place and things of that nature, but I pray you don't have that to say about me, but like how is that for you to see that?
Well, it's disheartening. I mean, whenever I see it, I try not to focus on it. I don't look for it. I try not to engage in it when I see it. As you have already said, yes, I had a wonderful working relationship with my father in the ministry, my late father in the ministry, the pastor, Reverend Nathaniel Whitney. And I served under him for 8 years before he ordained me and supported the plant of this ministry. And even now, I support my fathers. There are elders who I love to support. One in particular, Pastor Sam Robeson of Community Baptist Church, who's been very instrumental in helping me matriculate as a pastor. It's disheartening, but I believe this is why we've started Generational Wisdom. We've started Generational Wisdom to help my generation understand the significance of not just passing a baton to someone, but to make sure you teach them not only how to carry it, but to run the next leg faster than you. Yeah. That's something that I've always respected about track and field. As a young man in the 80s, this is before your time, Carl Lewis was the anchor leg. And so the understanding was he was going to run the fastest leg. And so when I look at my generation to your generation, it makes me feel good to be able to pass a baton to you and then throw my hands up because I know you're about to bring home the gold. Yeah. And so that's the greatest thing that I want to share when we talk about generational wisdom. I don't want to depart from this life and you have to go to a seminary to talk to me in hopes of receiving in the spirit that which I should have given you now.
Yeah.
So that's why every chance I get, let me share whatever I can and then receive back.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Main reason because one of the things that I think often happens is even for sons, there is such a highlight on the amount of fathers who are just bad people and just do all these different things. And a lot of times, I think a lot of that stuff is cliche. I'm not saying that it does not happen, but I really do believe that there are more good men out here than there are bad men. It's kind of like in relationships. People always want to talk about the bad person. There's so many bad men. It's like, no, there are more fathers out here that really do care about your development, that are willing to help you be successful. And so even in that, I want to encourage us today. Here is a wisdom point for us today. Let us find ourselves celebrating the good when we can. Every chance we get, we celebrate the good. Every chance we get, we should be able to celebrate, honor, and really appreciate all of the good moments, because it's in the good moments where we are able to see memories be made. Talking about our pandemic journey, how has it been for you in this pandemic, leading and then also, fathering, shepherding, all these different things? You have all these responsibilities. We are two people who are very involved in our community. We are very involved in our ministries. We, of course, have families. I wouldn't be here if you didn't have a family. But we have families. You're still a man. You recently turned 50. You're getting old. And so in terms of this, how has that been for you?
Let me just share this from the bottom of my heart. And I say this every chance I get. I thank you for making 2020 or 2020, and as you said, we're still in it, but 2020 to me, my greatest year in ministry. 2020 was my greatest year in ministry for this reason. Next to the first year when we planted Nehemiah, 2020 was the most learning that I had to do. And so 2020, I don't want to just say humbling, because I feel I've always had, a great degree of humility. But 2020 was the year where there was a real shift. And the shift in ministry from the pastor went from delivery to presentation. And so last year, it wasn't so much let me work on my clothes or my hoop. I need to really work on my presentation. Yeah. So I had to sit down and literally allow you to become, our role shifted. And so growing up, it's like, okay, for hip hop purposes, I'll be Dre, you'll be Snoop. Well, it switched, and I needed you to be Teddy Riley, and I needed you to handle me like a Michael so we can produce Dangerous. Yeah. And I had to really trust what you knew about the change in culture, technology, so that way you could bring out the best of me. Yeah. And so last year was a phenomenal year because I got a chance to really overcome fears. And I think that's something I do want to touch on for fathers. Fathers and pastors, don't allow your fear to keep you from disconnecting with your sons. Yeah. Don't allow your inability to just say, I don't know how to do that, to keep you from having a wonderful lunch meeting, because I don't even know how many times I had to literally just say, I really don't know how to do that. Yeah. And so thank you for doing it. Show me how to do it when you can, but allow me to keep learning. Yeah.
And I think that's something so real, because you said something right now that was very profound, close to full presentation. And I think a lot of times it's something that can happen for sons. We can sit on information that we know our fathers need, or sometimes fathers can see the son has the information, but because of pride, they don't let the son get it out. And I think that's something that we have to really realize, in this world that is evolving right in front of our eyes, we have got to make sure that we are really realizing that it's going to take collaboration in order for us to work together. That's another wisdom point for us. Collaboration over chaos. I have to help us with that, because that is so real.
And I'll say this, collaboration, let me touch on this point. For fathers, naturally, you want your father in the natural to teach you economics. Yeah. In the spirit realm, you want your pastor to teach you economics. Yeah. So as we still continue to move through this valley called COVID, economically, it only makes sense for us to look at a second and a third campus within. So versus saying, okay, let's launch out and start these other campuses. No, let's take advantage of where we are and let's maximize it. Because right now in this new culture, literally we have the opportunity to do ministry 24/7. Yeah. And we have an advantage over other cities because Las Vegas is still a 24/7 city. Yeah. And so for Nehemiah, outpour Nehemiah, the sky's the limit. Because literally we're two creative people who live, breathe, sleep, eat. All we do is ministry. Yeah. And so for us to share resources, it only allows us to do more work in the community.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that's something that's very true. Also piggybacking off of that, because sometimes what happens is people, they hear, the Matthew 28, go and make disciples. And, I understand you're supposed to raise people up and send them out. But one of the things that has to be understood is when we raise and send out, that doesn't mean I'm sending you empty-handed. And that's something that is so real, because I'm seeing that happen a lot. We have a lot of people who are just being told, go out. We're going to give you a few pop-up signs, and, I'm going to give you maybe a few grand, and you figure it out from there, and then, have me come preach your anniversary and it's like, no, it's not supposed to be like that.
No, here's generational wisdom. Generational wisdom is this. We have to change the narrative concerning how you earn your stripes or your medals in ministry. Yeah. There's a bad narrative that paints the picture that you have to go through, you have to suffer. The more you go through, the more you suffer, the more advancement is going to come. No. Well, I beg to differ with that.
Yeah.
I really do, because Psalm 1 doesn't tell me I have to go through. Yeah. Psalm 1 tells me if I sit with the right people, take counsel from the right people, everything I do shall prosper.
That's right.
So I disagree with that.
Yeah.
And then I think the other picture that we've painted is when we talk about going out, I want you to go out, but I want you to go out where you're reaching people globally, internationally. So whereas the resources that you might spend in a building, I want you to spend that in doing global ministry. Yeah. And so that's that's the generational wisdom that we need to correct. We need to share that so that narrative can change. There are a lot of sons who are struggling unnecessarily, and there are a lot of fathers who are struggling unnecessarily because they really need to call a timeout, and they need to really evaluate the resources, evaluate the economics, and really have it shouldn't be a tough conversation, but if it is, father or son, somebody lead the conversation. That's right. I'm going to say that. Yeah. Somebody needs to lead it.
That's right. And I want to say this because I know, like you said two words that are very strong, and they're used a lot. I think they're abused. Global and international. You are someone who, even in the coming weeks, you're about to head to Africa and spend 2 weeks teaching. You know, the goal is for me to join you next year and being able to go over there, teach and preach, you know, for some time and really begin to do global ministry. You know, we talk about sending our sons and going out to the nations, but this is something that we're actually doing and we are participating in. So I just want to say that, you know, this is our focus in this time. This pandemic is a time to be building those connections and growing relationships with people in different nations to help us be, you know, what it is we keep saying we are in America.
And I want to share this, if I can. I want to give this moment, and we're talking. So this is generational wisdom, and outside of us, there's two other sons, Christopher and Cameron. But I want to share this as a father, as a pastor. This is what makes me proud. This is a proud moment. Shouts out to Gospel Link, who I work with in going to Africa. We'll be in Zambia for the first 2 weeks of June. It does my heart well when that organization says, we're watching your son. We want your son to come to Africa. Okay, that's the Super Bowl for me. The Super Bowl for me is to see my sons in the ministry, natural and spiritual, really, really going ye. I want you to go ye therefore. And I believe therefore is beyond your zip code. That's right. I really do. I believe one of the things that we need to fix in the father and son relationship, because I know I pray about this and I share this with friends. I never want to be a stumbling block or a hindrance to where God is going to take you. I want to be the big supporter. And that's something else I want to share with fathers and sons. Work together and push each other so you don't get in each other's way.
Yeah. And that's something that's very true because, and we laugh about this all the time because, you know, people don't know this, but my dad, he's the state president for the National Baptist Convention, you know, so he's the Nevada state president. And so in terms of that, you know, Baptist, I'm more of a non-denominational prophetic guy, but our core beliefs are the same. And so, you know, in terms of that, what is that like for you? You know, you have a different style. You know, your service is completely different from, you know, an outpour service. What is that like for you? Because, you know, most fathers are like, well, if this is my son, the only way for me to father him and the only way for me to see the DNA of me is to see more replication than, you know, so like, what is that like for you?
Again, that's exciting. That goes back to let me not be a hindrance nor a stumbling block. Each man, each woman, there's a different call. There's a different gathering of sheep that you're going to reach. That's right. And that's what makes it fun. What makes it fun is I can sit back and watch you reach people that I can't reach. And you have to be honest about that. Not every shepherd is called to reach every sheep. And so when I'm watching you move in the gifts, it's also encouraging for me. That's something else I want to share with fathers. For many of us who were raised in a traditional format, some of us were not exposed to the gifts. Some of us were not allowed to flow in the gifts. So now, just like in the natural, for the fathers who didn't get to play football, now you're reliving that through your son playing high school football. So for me in ministry, it's awesome for me to watch you work a prayer line or to prophesy, because I can remember as a young preacher wanting to do that, but that wasn't the environment that I was a part of. And so that's a part of that give and take between the father and son.
Yeah, and that's so real, because something I really do appreciate is the respect for the different cultures, the understanding of different cultures and things like that. but then being honest enough to just be like, okay, cool, that's your lane. Because we've even been in services where it's like, okay, cool, hey, come on, get to work. And it's like, it's no insecurity. It's nothing like that goes on. So that is a very serious thing. And I go ahead.
Let me just touch on this. This is generational wisdom. Generational wisdom. I have to share this. Fathers, study your sons. Sons, study your fathers. Yeah. That's the only way you're really going to be able to work as a team. Something happened on this past Sunday. And I want to share this. And if somebody wants to watch our broadcast, the Nehemiah Ministries, our 8 o'clock service, please do. My style as a preacher, I take off. I literally have a higher start intro than close, which is backwards for preachers, because most preachers work to a close. I like to start off high. Well, I started off high and I went really high. And then you were off to the side going, stay there. Now, to somebody else that doesn't know me, they would say, you shouldn't do that. You're throwing him off. No, you know me. You know what I'm capable of. You know what I'm not capable of. And that's something I want to stress when we talk about generational wisdom. Fathers, pass down to your sons your strengths and weaknesses. That will help them help you.
Yeah, and I think something else that can be said of that is the vulnerability. The vulnerability of the father makes it easier for the son to be his father's biggest cheerleader or his son's biggest, support. Because you preaching, and sometimes the room may not be with you. Well, the room may not be with you, but your son should. And no matter where you go or whatever's happening, his sons aren't supposed to just grab water, hold, books, or, be there to intercede. No, I'm supporting you. I'm walking the sermon with you. I want to know what you're preaching on. Where are we coming from? Okay, cool. What you doing tomorrow? What's this? And it's even in our training. We're going to talk about training some more in a second. But, yeah, that's the thing. It's being able to be vulnerable about that.
Let me get personal for a second. I don't know if enough fathers say this. And so I'll speak on behalf of Kelcey West, and I hope this touches some other fathers. I could pastor thousands of people. 1,000 people could tell me after service, Pastor, you did a great job. You were in the pocket. I understood where you were from a theological standpoint today. You moved me to want to walk this walk better. When you hear that from your sons or daughters, but when you hear it from your children, that's a whole different compliment. And so that's something, and vice versa. When children are growing up, they need to hear compliments. They need to hear encouragement from their fathers. And then as we get older, sometimes it can change. Now, there's still a need. I know when you're done ministering, I know times where it's like, okay, when he's done ministering, I really need to tell him you did a great job. Because I know the son in you is going, okay, Dad, did you see me score a touchdown? Yeah, Dad, did you see me? I got a trophy today. That doesn't go away. Yeah. And I think people miss that when it comes to ministry, when it comes to pastoring. We still have an innate ability and desire to want to be received and want to be rewarded. Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, and that's very real. And so we're... And I want to go ahead and say this because I haven't said it in a second. If you guys are enjoying this conversation, I definitely want you to share. I definitely want you to make sure that you are, liking this and supporting this. And, definitely we do appreciate you tuning in. This is just how we talk, honestly, on a daily basis. And we are excited that you guys are tuned in for this and honored to be on this platform. And so moving forward in our conversation today, there are some changes that are taking place in the body of Christ. So, not necessarily, there are guys in your generation who are transitioning out and things of that nature, just realizing they have different desires, different things they want to do. There are guys, of course, in your father's generation that are just like, their generation is really dying off. But then you see my generation, they're very out here. Yeah. Very just like, And I'm a young guy. But for you, what are some concerns that you're having, right now with my generation and yours from the standpoint of readiness, the conversation of readiness.
Well, and many people don't know this. Your first concert, the first concert I took you to was not Kirk Franklin, nor was it Yolanda Adams. The first concert I took you to was Front Row to see Houdini.
That's right.
That's
rest
right.
in peace,
and,
my
and
guy.
so, rest in peace to Ecstasy. But
That's
watch
right.
this. I say that to say this. You know, from your upbringing and watching me, I believe in fresh rhymes over dope beats.
That's right.
So my concern for my generation, as well as yours, is that people don't abuse technology. Watch where I'm going. Now that people have access to preaching like they've never had before, I don't want people to copy styles, copy sermons, copy lessons. Don't do that. Yeah. I can watch preaching all day. And sometimes it concerns me when I see people mimicking, and I understand imitation is flattery, but sometimes people aren't flattered when you flat out
like that's that preacher.
Oh, I know. I've heard that sermon before. I mean, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And so I don't want us to lose the assignment. There's a biblical spiritual mandate for us to study to show thyself approved. And I don't want that to go away. That's what concerns me. Because again, I have no issue with style. I have no issue with culture. Culture, there's a greater push now for praise and worship, or for the praise breaks. No problem with that, man. We can dance for 2 hours, but after we finish dancing for 2 hours, take me into this text. Yeah. And when you take me to this text, I want you to dissect it and unpack it to the point where I go home and now I'm like the Berean church and I want to study it some more because you've impacted my intellect like that. Yeah. So that's my concern. And that's not for your generation. I'm looking at my generation, and I'm saying we need to be more studious. I want to give a shout out, and I say a mentor. I appreciate his scholarship, and that would be one Dr. Jamal Bryant. Years ago, when I came to the faith in my 20s, Jamal Bryant was pushing the envelope, and I didn't know how I could be me in church, and he opened that door. For a cat like me to be myself in the pulpit. But what I most appreciated about Jamal Bryant, it wasn't empowerment. And actually when I met him, he was with the NAACP. It wasn't NAACP, it wasn't empowerment. It wasn't his style of dress. What most impressed me about Dr. Jamal Bryant was he was a graduate of Morehouse. Then I'm learning he's a graduate of Duke. And then the Oxford studies. That motivated me. So even like right now, I'm working on my doctorate, and I want to encourage other preachers. Let's remove that mindset. You don't need school. You don't need training. If you open your mouth, God will speak through you. I'm not saying he won't, but I will say we need to do a better job of getting back to our studies.
Yeah, and I think that's something strong because this is the thing. Even the most divine revealing of the word, if your revelation is articulated at a level that does not grow people, you're boring. And so that's something that's very real because, like right now, you talked about the amount of copying and the abuse of technology. This is something that most people do not know, but and it's an unspoken rule, but it's something that I think is just a very clear understanding. I have not been able to preach the same sermon twice. It's an anti my training. I do not go to a book of sermons and just randomly find something. I have an assignment every week. When it comes to the people of Outpour or anywhere that I'm supposed to go preach, I need to go to God, figure out what it is that I need to say, and I have, like as he just said, drop a fresh rhyme over a dope beat. And of course, the word never changes. However, it's on you to make sure you're not taking something that was for another group of people to another house. You bring the wrong gift, you bring the right gift to the wrong house, and you throw everything off. And so, in terms of that is something real. And so, you talk about dope rhymes over, fresh rhymes over dope beats a lot. And in terms of this, right now, I believe the pandemic has given everybody an opportunity really grow. I think even technology is giving everybody an opportunity to grow. For you as a trainer of preachers, you know, especially in our city, there have been so many people who have been trained under you. I'm talking about people your age, younger, older. You have been able to really work with a lot of people and things of that nature. And your seminary school comes to your city to do teachings at your church.
Yes.
And so, you know, in terms of that, what is that like for you? And what are some things that you wish you could see more preachers, you know, beginning to do and things of that nature?
Just fall in love with study. Fall in love with study more than the actual delivery. My pastor, my late pastor, this is what he told me. He said, Kelcey, and he called me Kelly. He said, you don't ever have to chase a sermon. You don't ever have to, you know, prostitute yourself per se for a place to preach. He said, if God gives you a word and you properly prepare yourself, he'll give you a place to preach it. Well, here we are 23 years later, and I have never seen that not to be true. And so I just want to, my encouragement is to see preachers, you know, I'm a social media pastor. I want to see preachers sharing more of what they think versus just copying and pasting. I really want to see preachers. There's so many preachers who have a word. Well, don't wait for a pulpit. Share it. Share that word. That's something I miss when there's opportunities for especially preachers now, or teachers, but for us to gather and to exchange ideas and to challenge each other. Don't run from that. Let me go back to 2020. This is what 2020 did for me. 2020, in slowing down my schedule, it allowed me to be exposed to some of the greatest minds my past schedule didn't allow me to sit and listen to. And so right now, I'm being challenged, let me keep it 100, to step my game up. That's what COVID did, because the people now on a given Sunday, they're listening to 20 pastors. Yeah. They're listening to 20 different styles, 20 different deliveries, and minds that surpass yours. So my encouragement for every pastor, hear me when I say this, my encouragement for every preacher, there are some, and I mean no disrespect, if you are a beginning pastor, preacher, knock yourself out. But there are some quote unquote Sunday school like sermons you shouldn't be preaching now. Yeah. Serious. It's time for you to mature. It's time for you to sharpen your pencils. It's time for you to dig and deal with some scriptures that you skipped over. Yeah. And I really want to share that. There are more psalms.
The begets.
Oh yeah. Man, there are more psalms to preach than our favorites, our go-tos. Let me say that. My favorite book in the Bible, you know, I've had an off week if you ever hear me say, for the most part, let's go to Jonah. That's my go-to book. And so I work real hard to make sure my series is not there because I can become lazy in that book. And so when I listen to preachers, I hear those go-to messages. And I just want to encourage preachers, challenge yourself. Yeah. Challenge yourself to deal with a text that's going to deal with you. Challenge yourself to deal with scripture where you have to literally pray and study. You may not start writing until Saturday. And then when you start writing on Saturday, you're like an attorney. You have notes and notes and notes and notes. And now you're trying to figure out what's going to make it to the pulpit.
What is my point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what I just want to see that hunger. Yeah. And that comes from going to Africa saved my life. Going to Africa really helped give me, it helped spark a revival for me with preaching. In Africa, there's a different hunger and thirst for the word. When I went to Africa, the first time, this would be my third trip in 4 years. The first trip, in my mind, I was going to shout to people. I'm like, man, we're going to take Nehemiah to Africa and we're going to shout him. And when I got there, none of my analogies worked. None of my preaching closes and none of my churchisms, none of that stuff worked. Yeah. Because when you get to Africa, they only write when you say chapter and verse. That's right. They will sit and wait for you to say chapter and verse. Until you say that, it doesn't make sense. It's not even worth me writing down because I only trust the Bible. That was the greatest experience that could have happened to me.
And I think that's so real. And I think this is another wisdom point for us today. You have got to find your challenge and establish a new level of hunger, especially in this time as things begin to open up, because, you have people who are coming out of this pandemic. And truth be told, whether people are honest about this or not, the people that are actually going to really need your ministry are people that are hurting, that are broken, that have been experimenting, that have been researching. And so, this next wave of ministry that we're entering into is some of the most inquisitive people than we've ever seen before. People are like, well, I've been reading this, I've been researching this, and I'm like, man, wow, that's really dope. I didn't know you were into that. And even some of the stuff that of course doesn't agree with what Christians are doing, but we see people, churchgoers, who are now experimenting with other things, and it's making us as leaders have to say, man, I've really got to be able to go into my word and not just hit them with, well, it's in there somewhere. Saying it's in there somewhere is like a curse word. We do not do that. We should be able to tell people this is why we do not do this. And I'm going to show it to you, especially in today's world. I'm going to have to show it to you in the Hebrew and in the Greek to make sure you have a proper understanding of what it is that we're going after.
I think right now, generational wisdom, there's some basics. So this is why fathers are needed right now. There are some basics that can't be skipped over. So right now, people are walking around. Please hear me when I say this. I have technology. I have my Bible. It's in my phone. That's not where God told you to keep it. God told you to put it in your heart. And so for the preacher, for the parishioner, this is a false narrative. This is false knowledge, because you have this mindset, because I have it in my phone, I have it on my iPad, I have all of these resources. It's not the same as having it in your heart. And so now is a time for pastors to really sit down with sons and make sure before they launch out into any type of water, do you have what you need in your heart? That's an important conversation. And so that's a part of the generational wisdom. Fathers, share as much as possible, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Share your kryptonite, share the warning signs, really share the things that you wish you would have done differently. I share this with you, and I've often shared this at where you are in ministry. I wish I was there when I started. You are far more technical than I was when I started. I was more of a topical preacher when I started. I didn't get introduced to expository preaching till maybe I'm almost 30 when I'm introduced to expository preaching, and then that changed my life after going to the WHW conference in Los Angeles with the great Frank Ray and R.A. Williams. Come on. But I'll say this: the thing that I'll share with you in front of our YLC family is the one thing that you have to major in, and it's something that I wish I had done more of. Major in prayer and minor in preaching. Hear me when I say that. There's so many people that major in preaching and they minor in prayer, and that's why they struggle to hear what's next from God. Yeah, major in prayer.
That is so real. And that's something that's very serious, because I've noticed that, especially just in this pandemic, if you don't have a stronger prayer life after this, I don't know what you've been doing. But, that's very real, because this has been challenging, because you can have all the presentation, you can have everything, lights, cameras, you can have the LEDs, you can have the basic back, whatever you have. But if I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, prayer brings substance to the preach. Because if I have my own time with God, it's easier for me to be able to be convincing of the power of whatever it is I'm talking about.
I echo that. I also want to share this. Prayer gives you direction.
Yeah.
That's the job of a father. When you're raising children, you're giving them direction. Yeah. That's what you're doing. Every moment in their life, there should be some moment where a child is able to say, my father said. First day of school, my father said. Graduation, father said. First game, father said. Wedding day, father said. There should be that moment. And so when it comes to ministry, That's why I'm saying prayer. Prayer gives direction. For myself in the COVID, and myself for 2020, life slowed down. And when it slowed down, that allowed me to spend more intimate time with God than I ever have in the pastorate. Because as a pastor, and this is why we need generational wisdom, you are wearing far too many hats sometimes in ministry. And that's detrimental to your prayer life, because it's tough to spend that time when you are all five in the fivefold, or you're all of the volume. You're just doing too much. And so in 2020, it allowed me to spend intimate time with God and get direction. This year, as you know, I've always, it's going to be fresh rhymes over dope beats, but I've never received, this is your preaching calendar for a year. I've never received that. Coming in the middle of 2020, the Lord showed me, this is your preaching calendar for next year. And that just blew my mind. And then for it to happen, and then to see why we needed that, I'm like, God, you never have to worry about me sacrificing my prayer time, because we needed Ecclesiastes. We're now about to walk Proverbs. After Proverbs, I can't wait. And I don't want to rush the year, but God, you gave us Amos.
That's not a normal
We're
book you hear on a
closing
Sunday
the
morning.
year in the book of Amos.
Yeah.
So I'm already going, okay, God, what are you gonna say?
Yeah.
And for those who do not know, when I say we're walking those books, that's 52 chapters.
Yeah.
That's 52 chapters. God gave us 52 chapters for 52 weeks. Fresh rhymes over dope beats. If anybody is going to minister from this pulpit, they're going to minister from that place, because that's what God gave us via prayer.
That's right. And I want to talk about that, because you said that God slowed things down for you. It seemed like when God slowed things down for my dad, he sped things up for me.
That's right.
It's kind of crazy how that happens. And I think that a lot of times that is very profound. A few weeks ago, it's actually, I can say a few weeks ago, you caught COVID.
Let's say
A month. Okay, so we're running 1,000 miles per hour. We're active in our community. We're politics. You're dealing with everything that's going on. You got church community, organizations, families. Still got to take care of you. And in the middle of everything that's going on, you get COVID.
That's right.
So now, what do we do?
That's right.
And that was a very tough moment, because it's like I watched guys that I know in ministry lose their dads, and it was like, okay. You kind of have that moment as a son where you're like, if this is it, am I truly ready for what happens? We believe in prayer, but God, if this be your will, what was that like for you?
I want to share this to sons who are watching, and I need sons to really hear me when I say this. When I caught COVID, and this was the end of January, going into March, February, because I was about to celebrate my 50th birthday. And so I had COVID during that time space. This is what I watched for my basketball fans. I watched the 1979 finals be played over again in the church. 1979 finals, the Los Angeles Lakers are playing the 76ers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the captain for the Lakers. He goes down with an ankle injury. A young Irvin Magic Johnson, he's a rookie at that time, he steps up and says, I'll play center. And he literally guarantees we're going to win. Have no fear, he said, Irvin is here. So when I caught COVID, I was able to rest and really recover from COVID, because I knew you were playing point guard. Yeah. And so what it was like for me was, it was like I needed this to happen, because I need to see what you can handle. Yeah. There's so many people who say, I'm ready, I can step in my father's shoes, but you untested. And it sounds good on paper, but last name does not always mean you can do the job. And I think because a lot of times we talk about David. We talk about David, but we don't talk about the other brothers. Yeah. And we need to. And there's no knock on them, but they weren't the one for that moment. They had their own purpose, but it wasn't for that. So for all of my sons who are watching, be mindful not taking advantage of moments to step up to get your training and to allow yourself to be tested. Because you had to carry Nehemiah's plate and outpour. So in your pastorate, it's going to take a nice wave to scare you now.
Yeah.
Because you had to do all of that while praying for your father to get off a sick bed of affliction.
Yeah.
That's called pastoring.
Yeah. And that's real. And that's something that's so true because I remember I was talking to my wife about this, and I was like, listen, I'm just not sure how we about to do this, but I just need you to just keep me lifted. Because, you know, me and my wife, we have our businesses, we have different things that we just have a lot going on. And it was just like, you know, wow, but okay, God, you told me to do this, okay? And so literally, you know, as I shared earlier on in the broadcast, and we're wrapping up, you know, I start my days off every day. You know, I really do start my day off. Okay, what do you need first? And then I'll work on everything else after that. And then stuff gets done. Well, my Sundays, you know, I wake up every Sunday, 6 a.m. You know, of course, everybody has a live stream churches you tune into to just make you feel good, wake up. And so I started my days off. I get ready, get dressed. I am at my dad's church. I'm anywhere between 7 and 7:30. We're getting ready for 8 o'clock service and, you know, take care of him, handle all his responsibilities. I stay even for Sunday school, praise God, because I believe in, you know, being of support to the full thing. And then I serve my ministry, and you know, sometimes I don't get home on a Sunday until 4 o'clock because I've been serving. And so, you know, we preached hard. I did not preach the same sermon at my church as I did in my, because we wasn't in Ecclesiastes, but my father's in Ecclesiastes, so I ain't go and say, hey, let me go find something to make it easy. No, we gonna go to Ecclesiastes. And so we did that, you know, and then to turn around and then stand in and teach Bible study for you. Right. Wow,
fresh rhymes over dope beats.
Yeah.
Again, I was trained. This is how my pastor trained me. I had to be ready for 8 o'clock Sunday school, 11 o'clock Wednesday Bible study, Friday teacher training for Sunday school, and then whatever he needed during the week.
Yeah.
So when I started pastoring, it was already in my DNA to be ready every day.
Yeah.
And so from a father to a son, we don't just talk Sunday talk.
Yeah.
Ministry is every day.
It's every day.
You can't pastor and only talk about church on Sunday.
Yeah. I'm
leery of that pastor. I'm leery of that student of the Bible if you only pick up your sword on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so, I had no reservations when you said you will handle it. I do want to share this with fathers who, from an economic standpoint, I want to share this with churches. Make these servant opportunities positions. I want to share that. There's some pastors who are watching. There's some boards who are watching. Free your pastor and allow him to bring in the staff that he needs to do the job. It's not nepotism. It's called talent. It's not nepotism. It's called talent. And so it just so happens you happen to be my son. If you were not my son, I would still be like Jerry Buss. I would still be like Jerry Jones needing to sign Dak. We need to get this deal done. Mm-hmm. And so I want to share with pastors, don't abuse the gifts of your son. Sons, don't abuse what your fathers can do. Because although another church might be able to do something greater, understand what your father is working with. And then let's have some meeting in the middle. I just want to share that with churches because I think that's a whole nother conversation on nepotism. Yeah. But churches really stop and pay attention. And I want to share this because people don't know this. This is generational wisdom. Sometimes people look at my children and they say, well, they're young, they're 20. And I have to remind people, they've been in ministry all their life.
Yeah.
Their first living room was our sanctuary.
That's right.
You spent more time at my pastor's house than you did with other family members.
That's right.
All you know is ministry.
That's
listening to us talk pastor talk or preacher talk.
Yeah.
That's all you know.
Yeah. And that's a real thing. And so, listen, this was the first time that y'all will see this, and so we are definitely going to make sure that we continue to keep bringing you all this amazing content. So, listen, I want you guys to like, share, invite people, because this is generational wisdom. This is what we do. We didn't want to just, have sermons coming, but we want to make sure that we are giving you all opportunity to see a great father-son dynamic that really does work. And so I'm excited about it. Hopefully we will be able to continue making sure that you all are able to have enjoyable content, things of that nature. So we are honored. We are grateful to be a part of YLC, and we are excited to continue building with this awesome network and with this awesome, I'm going to just say a reformation of people who are doing amazing work around the country. And so I'm excited about it. And so, listen, we're wrapping up for today. I want to say thank you for tuning in. If you were blessed by this, there is some giving information down below. I encourage you to sow into generational wisdom today, sow into our ministries as we are working hard to make sure that souls are being saved, not just in the city of Las Vegas, but in the cities around the world and in the countries that we are being sent to. And so here you have been able to meet us, interact with us, and also you will be able to follow us on social media and stay up to date with all that we are doing. So listen, y'all, I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless, and we will see you all next Thursday for Generational Wisdom.